Hey guys, Chris here. I just got a little bit of time and wanted to touch base with you guys and kind of give you some thoughts on a particular issue that's kind of hotly debated. Don't understand why, but it is. And the issue has kind of come to my doorstep now that I have a son with a congenital heart defect. And that's the subject of vaccinations. We've had a lot of people lately that have wanted to come see Abe, which is really nice. It's makes us feel good and supported. But one of the things that's very important if you're going to be around our son is that you're vaccinated against diseases that are kind of common this time of year. The flu vaccine is one that you need to have. Getting your Tdap so we don't get any diphtheria or whooping cough or things like that. So it's really important to us that we have those because, if you were to get whooping cough, it could be bad for you. If you were to get the flu, it could be bad for you. You could potentially, end up in the hospital, which, is bad. However, I'll take getting whooping cough as a person with a whole heart as opposed to my son who has half of one. And the inconvenience you would suffer could be a disastrous thing for Abe. So we have these rules, and we have had some family members who unfortunately won't comply. They are of the anti-vaccine movement, and I'm kind of at a loss for how to deal with that situation. It's even been made, it's even gone so far as to have an accusation that we are actively making a choice to not have these family members in my son's life. Nothing could be further from the truth. I would love for these people to be a part of my son's life because they're great people. But the reality is, more than their feelings, I care about my son living. And so I don't really have a choice in the matter. If you're anti-vax and you come across this situation, understand that the choice to not be involved in that family member's life is your choice. That child, that family didn't have a choice in the matter with their son or daughter being born with a defect. They didn't. And my son has gotten some vaccines, and you may very well say to yourself, well, if your son's got the vaccine, then my unvaccinated children can't give you something. And that's just not the way communicable diseases work. We live in a world where, or in a nation where there's no polio, okay? The polio vaccine has practically eradicated polio from the United States. Now, if there was a sizable population of children who are not vaccinated who got polio, what we have is a potential for the polio virus to mutate and be introduced to a population that has a vaccine for a prior mutation. These kinds of things can happen. And that's the reason why it's so important to get vaccinated against things that aren't even around. Okay? I don't know anyone that's ever gotten diphtheria. Do you? No. As a general rule, I feel that anything that Jenny McCarthy believes in, just by the fact that that has happened, means that you should think the opposite of that thing. And it's hilarious because people who think they're smarter than doctors, when their kid gets a disease that could have been prevented, where do they go? To a doctor, right? You don't trust your doctor enough when the situation isn't dire. But when it is dire, then you're willing to trust them, or you have to trust them. So, there's some irony there. And the thing is that I have to go in the opposite direction. There are parents that are out there that actively campaign for anti-vaccination laws, where you have a choice to not get a vaccination before you do something like send your child to public school. And the thing is that with Abe, at some point in time, we are going to have to muster up the courage to let him live a normal life. And that includes doing things like going to school. And as someone pointed out to me, if I can't take a peanut butter and jelly sandwich into school for my son, why should you be allowed to let your child come in with a potentially preventable disease? It just makes no sense. It makes no sense that you should be able to make that decision. Because the thing is that where I understand your want for a personal decision, you have to also admit that vaccination is not a matter of personal choice, it's a matter of public health. There's a big difference, okay? You have to sometimes think of other people, you know? One of the things that keeps getting thrown in my face is, I'm just doing what's best for my family. I'm doing what's best for my family. If you're doing what's best for you in spite of you hurting somebody else, what kind of lesson is that to teach anybody? You shouldn't do what you want on the backs or the pain of other people. Because the thing is that you're not burying my child. I am. While your child is supposedly not getting autism, my child could die. And as a parent, I shouldn't have to play that roulette game. Now, if you want to stay home and you want your children to be homeschooled and that's the way that you're going to do things, fine. I've got no issue. But I think some publicly funded services like public school should have some requirements on them, and one of them is you don't come in bringing whooping cough, or you've taken the preventative measure to reduce the possibility of your child bringing in whooping cough. Because the thing is that my kid is there, and again, I understand you got to do what's best for your family. I don't discount that at all, but do what's best for your family, but also think of others. Think of others who have to do the same thing. And whereas I can't help my situation, you can help yours. It's a beautiful choice to be able to make, to say, I can take part in a modern medical miracle and my child doesn't get smallpox, okay? That's mind-blowing. There was a point in history where that didn't happen and children would die of very common diseases. But we don't have that anymore. And the reason why is because someone developed a vaccine for those things. And, you know, everyone wants to throw around these accusations of money-hungry doctors and so forth. I can assure you that when I look at my son's hospital bills for U of M, I can assure you that if the healthcare or sick care industry wanted to make more money, they make far more money with my son being in the hospital than they ever would if my child was given a shot for a vaccine. I mean, how much does it cost for a vaccine? Let's say I'm just making something up. Let's say it's $1,000 for a vaccine. Your insurance may cover some of it. Okay, the healthcare industry gets $1,000. By the time my son is done with his treatments, he will be what they call $1 million baby. A lot more expensive, a lot more money goes into that industry than if my son was able to just get a vaccine for the problem that he has, which, I mean, is not a possibility, but the fact remains, right? It's just unbelievable thinking. It's the height of arrogance to reject medical science because of your personal philosophy. Because I have a feeling, not only do I have a feeling, but I know for certain that your philosophy will have to bend and will change when it looks like your child is not going to make it. You'll have a little bit more trust in sick care at that point. So let's not take it for granted. Get your kids vaccinated. Help protect other children like mine. Because the fact is that I don't have a choice. You do.